tell us. So I will do a quick introduction, because I think, are you all aware of Justine? Did you come to her forest bathing chat? I think
yes, I did.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did.
yeah. So Justine joined us to do forest bathing, talk about intro to forest bathing a while ago, and it's on the website. It's recorded. I really recommend you watch it. It was enlightening. So so she is a woman of many talents, I've got to say. And today she's been I call her my adventure friend, adventure woman, because today she's been climbing Snowdonia and lake swimming in Snowdonia too. So tell us what you're up to today.
Yeah, I've joined this lady who she's called Vivian Rickman, and she's an open water swimming coach, but she does all sorts of things. She's done things for TV, but all around swimming, and actually she's training to be a lifeguard and also a personal trainer, but she does different weekends. So this one is called, I think it's called Mountain Lake Swimming, but it's about assessing conditions if you're ever up in the mountain, and is this a lake that you could possibly swim in or not, and assessing the dangers, and then swimming in it. And of course this weekend is just the most amazing, unbelievable weekend, of which there are very few dangers, because quite often in the mountains you can, you know, then one minute it can be sunny and the next minute it can be, you know, totally changed conditions, but they're literally, you know, picture perfect. So we've just really been enjoying just swimming in the lakes, which has been lovely, and a little sort of meandering mountain stream, just sort of full of these golden reeds, because I had goggles on, and just sort of swimming, meandering down the mountain in amongst these golden reeds and bright blue sparkling water. So it's really lovely. Otherwise I'd be at the party that Stella was at, so but I'm in Snowdonia instead. But it's, yes, been really lovely, really lovely.
Well, you introduced me to lake swimming, cold water swimming. We did that together. I never ever thought I would get into a freezing cold lake in England. I've got to tell everyone that. It was never on my radar.
It was also a lovely day, wasn't it?
It was a lovely day, and Justine encouraged me, and it was an amazing experience. I was just, yeah, it was wonderful. So I recommend it. Okay, let's
get the cold showers. Just
get in the cold. Yeah, I've done the cold showers, but that was beyond cold showers, I've got to say. It was lovely. Okay, let's talk about breath work.
Yeah. I can take it over if you like.
Hand it over, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to actually make you co-host. Sorry, I haven't done that. We were too busy.
Oh, you don't need to actually, Stella. I'm not sharing anything.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay.
It's fine. You're just talking, and then we're going to try a bit of breath itself. So I'll do a bit of chatting, and then we're going to have 10 minutes of just trying this type of breath work, if that sounds okay. But I think depending, you know, I've obviously talked about what I've been up to today, but we've all come from various points. So I just wanted, before we begin, if I could just invite you just to close your eyes and just call in your energy from past situations that have happened today, or future ones that we worry about that may never happen. Just so you can be fully here for the next hour. And just notice the quality of your energy. What's alive in your heart? Just take a few breaths in whatever way you like. Just breathing in through your mouth or your nose, drawing the breath all the way down to your feet. Calling all aspects of yourself into this safe space. And now, just slowly expand your awareness again back into the room. Look around. Notice what's around you and who's in front of you on the screen. Who's sharing these moments with you? And whoever's not on mute that has just joined, welcome. Could you put yourselves on mute? So Nikki, Hayley. Great. So welcome to the session today, everyone. And it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you, not this time to forest bathing, for those of you that came last time, but for some of you, it may be a reintroduction to breath, or it may be a total introduction. And for me, it's a wonderful thing, this thing called breathwork. So it gives me huge pleasure to introduce you or reintroduce you to it. So just in terms of a bit of background about myself. So I was first introduced to breathwork when I took up Ashtanga yoga about 20 years ago, and it was all the rage. I was getting up at some ridiculously early hour to sweat on a mat in the dark with others. And then fast forward about 12 years ago, and I read an article in the Sunday Times Style magazine about something called transformational breathwork. And I read the article and it totally blew my mind. And I was running a travel company at the time and had an anniversary coming up. And they said, what would you like as a gift? And I said, I'd love to go to that breath retreat, which was in Lanzarote. So actually experiencing this form of breath work, I'd never done anything like it before, and it blew my mind. And I became friends with the coach over the years and had many more sessions. And I went back to Lanzarote, took friends, and also had sessions in London. And just, you know, to help me cope with various issues I was facing at the time, or that maybe I'd had in previous points in my life. And I also began to practice it on my own as a way of, well, keeping my immunity boosted and as a way of staying clear or helping me to get clear of some of the emotional baggage that I'd had. And then a few years ago, I just had a light bulb moment and I realized that I wanted to introduce what I felt was a superpower to others. And so I began training with that same breath coach, and I began to train to be one myself. And it's really because I believe breathwork is the most incredible tool. I believe you need someone to help you get going with breathwork, some sort of coach or practitioner. Otherwise, it's a bit, excuse me, like meditation, and we tend to lose interest and focus when we're first trying something like that. And I kind of see it a bit like having a personal trainer who helps you to kickstart your physical well-being. So it helps you to deepen your practice, and now and again you can go back to having sessions with someone, but in between having your own daily practice as a key sort of life support tool, I guess, for me has been really life-changing in terms of improving my health and my outlook on life and my ability now to manage stressful situations, because they're always going to come up in life. So in terms of, well, what is breath work? Because we hear about this thing, but particularly what is breath? I mean, I'm not sure that I even knew. So just starting with the basics, breath work is oxygen and energy. So it's called in China Qi or Ki. We might be familiar with some of these terms. And in Indian Sanskrit, it's called prana. And that literally means life or life force. So we're breathing in life when we breathe, or life force. And I see it as a bridge that connects us to all parts of ourselves. So the physical, the mental, emotional, and spiritual self. And it's, well, I see it as a hugely effective tool for helping us to explore who and what we are. And well, I don't know about you, but I assume that we got most of our energy from food, or some people might say it's coffee, but we actually get 70% of our energy from our breath. So if we're not aware, or we're not conscious of our breath, or we're not breathing properly or fully, or practicing some form of breath work, then we're not getting all the energy we need on a daily basis. And I think that's quite a powerful statistic. So what we're going to be trying today is something called conscious connected breathing. And it's an umbrella term, so it might be a bit like saying hatha yoga. So there are lots of different styles and brand names of this. So I spoke about one earlier, which is transformational breath work. And that's probably the closest to what we're trying today. And then there's also other different types. So holotropic breath work and rebirthing are other types of conscious connected breathing. So we mentioned it a bit earlier. I think somebody mentioned it in the chat, but if you're familiar with Wim Hof, who isn't right now, then this is the complete opposite type of breath work to Wim Hof. So he teaches a form of pranayama breath work, and there are over 1,000 different types of pranayama breath work alone. But pranayamic breath or yogic breath is a form of breath control. So we may breathe in for 5, hold, breathe out for 5. So what we're doing here is a form of breath release. So it's very good for any of us that control freaks. And when I'm working with someone, what I look at is where the breath is going in the body. But more importantly, I look at where it isn't going. So the parts of ourselves that we've closed down over the course of our lifetime. So in terms of a definition of this type of breath work, it can be defined in 3 different ways. So the first one is it's a self-healing modality. So I don't do anything to you, or I don't heal you or my clients. It's actually you, your body, creating the healing conditions yourself. So that's the first point. The second one is that it helps us to access more of our lung capacity or more of our respiratory system. So most people are breathing up here in their chest. A few people breathing down here in their bellies, but very few adults are breathing in both as we were designed to do. So if you see a healthy baby, it breathes both and it's lifting its chest and its tummy. And so what we're looking to do is to get back to this. And the third part is that it puts the body, we say, back into autopilot reset mode. So anything that's out of alignment in the body goes back, or you could say back to optimum factory settings, a bit like we joke about with an iPhone, but back to balance and back to harmony. Sometimes we can feel that happening during a breath session, and sometimes we can't. And it doesn't really matter because we're not really in control. It's about letting go. As I said, it's a form of breath release, and we're letting the body do what it wants to do, which in these sessions is about detoxing and healing. So it works on 3 levels. The first one is the physical level. So our cells rely on oxygen and energy, therefore breath, for our fuel. And so in a conscious connected breath session, we're bringing in more breath into the body. So we're oxygenating our cells. So when we're breathing better, or doing a breathwork session, we're fueling our cells. And better fueled cells are healthier cells. And therefore, then when we have greater cellular health, we have greater bodily health. So our objective in the first instance is to gain optimum physical health. And who doesn't want that? And on the second level, what we're looking to do is it works on an emotional level. So we all have emotional baggage. Is there anyone here who feels they don't have any emotional baggage? Because to be human is to have emotional baggage. But what is emotional baggage? So it's mental and emotional energy that didn't get processed the first time around. And why is that? Well, it's because when we are at points in our life where we feel threatened, or we feel unsafe, or we feel highly stressed, we go into, you may have heard of this, fight, flight, or freeze mode. So we activate the sympathetic nervous system. And when this happens, we hold our breath. We don't realize we're doing it, but that's what happens. And over the course of our lifetime, we've gone into this response many, many times. So this means that that emotional energy that you're feeling, whether it's anger, resentment, any of the things that you're feeling, guilt, or all the different emotions. So it's not getting processed. And I would say this is a very important point here for you to take away, is because the breath is the vehicle or the method by which we process our emotional energy or our emotional baggage. So what happens? Well, the body can't process those feelings that are coming up because you're holding your breath. And so when you're holding your breath, it's not able to process that energy, and so it stores it to be dealt with at a later date. So the next time you're feeling stress is quite difficult to remember, but the next time you're feeling stressed or anxious, you just need to keep breathing through it, because as you're breathing through those feelings, those difficult feelings, you're actually processing that energy as it's coming up. So to give you an analogy, I mean, I like to liken the body like it's a bit like a dusty old filing cabinet. So what we're doing with the breath work is we're going in with a feather duster and we're opening up all those drawers full of all those dusty emotional files, and we're giving it a good spring clean with that feather duster, which is the breath. So over time we can get really, really clear. And if you keep up a breathwork practice, you can prevent any further buildup of emotional baggage or energy, and you can stay clear. So, I find that a really, really important one. So the second one is about the emotional side. And the third one is the spiritual. So it gives us a deeper connection to ourselves and helps us to answer all sorts of questions, such as, well, what it means to be human, really. And the breath is a hugely effective tool for helping us to explore who and what we are. I always say in a breath session not to hold on too tightly to having, a profound spiritual experience, because you probably know this already in your life. They happen when you least expect them. And if you have expectations for that, then it tends to block it. So that's a bit of background. And in terms of what we're going to be doing today, for those that joined a couple of minutes late and maybe missed what I said, but we're going to have about a 10-minute taster session today, just having a look at the time. We may actually even be able to do a 15-minute taster. Usually if I'm doing a breathwork with a client, it can last anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes and sometimes an hour. If you come to a group session, quite often we'll breathe for an hour. And so in terms of what you can expect, you may get some of these feelings in the session today, but certainly if you're coming for a longer one, everyone is utterly unique. I mean, we're all very, very individual, and the lives that we've experienced are very individual. But for some people, it may be something physical. So you may feel the tension that we hold in our shoulders, for example. You may feel some tingling, which is just really greater energy. Remember, I said breath is energy coming into the body. So you may feel some tingling in your shoulders. You may feel it in your hands and your feet. So if you do experience that tingling, all it is that increased oxygen and energy that's coming into your body. And for others, it may be more of an emotional release. So anything from, some people laugh through a session, they literally giggle their way through a whole session. And for some, they have tears, can be very gentle or it can be very profound. And we call this a bit like emotional surfing, really. So surfing these emotions that are coming up to be released. And for some people, it may be, I mentioned it, a bit more of a spiritual experience. So it's not really like a laser beam that's coming in to the body. It's more like kind of diffused light, really. And I just ask people to trust it and trust the process, because the body is an amazing miracle, and it has access not only to our conscious mind, but also to the subconscious mind. And that's really where a lot of our stuff is held. So to give another analogy, it's a bit like, we talk about it as being like being in a vehicle. So we're in the back seat and we've got the map and we're saying it's this way. We know where we're going. We want to have a breath session and we want physical, emotional, spiritual help. We've got the fuel coming into the vehicle, which is the breath, but it's your body that's in the driving seat. It's got the keys in the ignition, it's got its hands on the wheel, and it's got its foot on the accelerator. So really you're along for the ride. It's the body that's in control. So I think that's probably enough talking from me on the background. So I think what we need to do, because we may need a few minutes for this, but I don't know, I better just check actually if it just to make sure, in case you didn't read the intro that Stella sent round. But there are some contraindications for this type of breath work. So if anyone suffers from epilepsy, has detached retina, glaucoma, prior strokes or seizures, or if you're pregnant in the first trimester only, or if you've had any psychotic or borderline psychotic episodes or states, then please don't join in the breathing session today, because it's not really best for you. And if that's the case, maybe you could just sit back and close your eyes and relax, or you can just leave it here for today. But that's really it. So what I'm going to do, I think, is if I run over the technique, because that'll probably take a few minutes, and then we'll make sure that everybody's set up correctly, and then we'll go for the session, if that sounds all right. Okay, so there are 5 different points to this type of breathing, and the first one is the one that you may find most different from other forms of breathing, and that is that you're going to have your mouth open. We don't advocate mouth breathing on a day-to-day basis. That's very different. The nose is there for a very good reason. But during this breath session, you're going to be doing with your mouth open. So for that reason, I always want people, and I ask you today, to be in a place where you feel safe and that you won't be disturbed. The mouth also, there's some not issues, there's some parts in terms of volume, getting volume in, but also it stimulates the lower electrical system. So the mouth is open. How open? It's as wide as if you can get a finger in through your teeth. If it hits your teeth, then your mouth is not wide enough open. I'll be reminding you through the 10 or 15 minutes that we're trying it. Even if I can't see you, don't worry about that, but I'll just keep reminding you to open your mouth, because it's the thing that people tend to not do when they first try this, and they do need regular reminding. It's never as open as you think it is, so I would always encourage you to open it wide like that. So that's the first point, and the tricky part, keeping your mouth open. The second part is it's a connected breath. It's in the title, Conscious Connected Breathing. And the research that they've done on this type of breath work is that it's in this connection that it trips the body into its own healing, self-healing mechanism. And actually, most creatures on earth do have a connected breath, just not human beings. So what does that mean? It means that there's no pauses in between the inhale and the exhale. So some people call this type of breath work circular healing. So we just keep going round and round, very different from the pranayama breath where we stop and start. This is a continuous breath. So that's the connected part. There are no pauses between the inhale and the exhale. The third part, if you can see me, you're going to have your hands just below your belly button, and you're going to keep your hands there, and you're going to keep your focus there. So this is an abdominal type of breathing. So we're going to be breathing into our belly, our lower belly, below our belly button. And it will be like you have an imaginary balloon in your belly. So as you breathe in through your mouth, I can feel my belly expand as if I'm breathing out an imaginary balloon in my tummy. So it's an abdominal type of breath. We're going to keep our attention and our focus below our belly button on where our hands are, because where our attention is, our breath will follow. So it's an abdominal breath. The fourth part is the exhale. The exhale is short and soft. So if I were to take my glasses, or if you've got sunglasses and you've got a mark on them, it's very, very short and soft, the exhale. And we say that the inhale is all about breathing in and receiving, and the exhale is all about emptying out the trash. So it's short and it's soft. It's also like the end of a yawn, so it's a sigh. And then moving on to the fifth part, which is where all the action is, which is the inhale. So you're going to be opening your mouth. All the focus is going to be on the inhale. And if we were going to have a ratio, it's about a ratio of 5 to 1. But we don't want you to focus on the inhale particularly, on the ratio particularly, but you're going to be breathing in a lot longer than you're breathing out. Some people get a bit worried about that and a bit anxious, but you don't need to worry. Just make sure that your inhale is considerably longer than your exhale. So those are the 5 points. So we're going to put all those together now, and we're just going to have a bit of a try. So we're going to be sitting, we're not going to get into the position yet of the breath. I'm just going to, could you just bear with me a second? I'm in a B&B and I've got lots of people just outside the door who are very loud. I'm just going to ask them just to, I won't be 1 sec. So we're going to have our hands just below our belly button, and we're going to be placing our focus there. We're going to have our eyes closed throughout the session. So we're going to go inwards, and we're going to inflate the balloon as if, inflate our tummy as if we have an imaginary balloon there. We're going to have our mouth open, and we're going to be breathing in to our hands, to our lower belly, considerably longer than we're exhaling. So I'll just show you this. I'll keep my eyes open, but you'll have your eyes closed. So I have my mouth open enough, I can get a finger through, and it's and you can see that as soon as I finish my exhaling part, as soon as I finish the exhale, I pick up the inhale. As soon as I finish the inhale, I pick up the exhale. So it's smooth. So I'm focused on my hands. I'm going to be breathing into my belly as if I've got an imaginary balloon. I've got my mouth open. And then I'm dropping on the exhale. Another analogy I quite like is a xylophone, an accordion. So you're breathing in. And to help you remember about this longer inhale, remember that we talked about the breath as being life or life force. We're breathing in, we're receiving that life or that life force all the way down into the lower abdomen. And then what we say is we're just gently and softly letting out the trash before we start again with that inhale. And so it just goes round and round, and we're just continuing in a very, very gentle fashion. The exhale doesn't need to be forced. It's just a soft, gentle sigh before we pick up that inhale again. So I'll just do it once more. And all the while I've got my mouth open. My mouth doesn't close in between. It stays open for the whole duration of the breath session. So are there any questions? Feel free to ask anything you like at this point. Now's your opportunity. If there's anything that's confusing you, or you can't quite feel that you get right, just there's not many of us on this session, so just feel free just to unmute yourself and ask.
Justine, I've done this before, and I remember feeling a little bit like short of breath when you do the inhale, with the circular part.
Yeah.
So
is it short of breath on the exhale?
When you go to inhale again.
Yeah, so fully exhale on the exhale. It doesn't
So you
have
have
to
to
go
like
on
fully
forever.
exhale it.
You
Okay.
fully exhale, almost fully, I would say, actually almost fully, and then you start again, because actually if you go fully, then there'll be a pause, and actually it's almost a bit detrimental. So almost empty, and then you start again. In terms of Vicks, your mouth, surprisingly not. So I always put a glass of water beside someone once you get into it. For example, if I'm just showing you and I'm doing a couple, quite often I can feel like I need to take a drink of water. But what happens when you just keep going is you don't. But if any point you get dry lips, so some people feel that they need to wet their lips, absolutely fine, and you just start all over. You don't have to be rigid, and there's no right or wrong with it. It doesn't feel like you're running a race either. If you feel like you're getting out of breath almost, just slow it all down. And just remember, the inhale needs to be considerably longer than the exhale. Don't get caught up in this kind of ratio of 5-1. Exhale almost fully, and then you start again, and just relax into it. I think what happens is that the brain starts to go, well, that doesn't feel quite right. I've never tried anything like that before. What happens is, we talk about this a lot with meditation as well, your brain will come in to do a lot of chatting and try and distract you and think of lots of different ways to stop you doing what you're doing. Just ask the chatter of the mind to take a bit of a break. But all you need to do is keep bringing your attention back to the breath. So when it wanders to, am I doing this right? Or my mouth's dry? Or how am I going to get all the breath out if I'm breathing in for much longer than I'm breathing out? That's just the chatter of the mind, because I'm doing it and I do it every day. So it's very possible. And I take many people through breath sessions. So it's just the mind. It's a bit like meditation. If you've tried meditation, the mind starts going, I'm bored, I'm distracted, I'm this, that, and the other. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath when your mind is just chattering. Keep focusing on your breath. There's no real right or wrong, but you just want to make sure that your inhale is considerably longer than your exhale. We want to get that ratio right. If you're breathing in and out at the same, then that doesn't quite work, and you get the wrong kind of mix of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the body. But nothing's going to happen to you. But just remember, the point of this is we're breathing in more oxygen and energy. That's what we're doing. Do you remember, if I talked about the way that it heals the body, the way that the breath, oxygen energy, heals the body? It's fueling the cells. It's helping to clear out that emotional baggage. It's going into the subconscious. So that's why we need to breathe in more than we're breathing out for this form of breath work. So you can lick your lips if they get dry. If you need to stop and have a drink, you can. I think it's unlikely. Of all this time, I've never seen it, and I've never needed to myself. But if you need to, you just stop. But better if you can't, because you want to stay inwards. You want to keep that focus inwards. You want to keep your eyes closed, and you want to keep that focus inwards, always on the breath. Any other questions? Okay, so the next part is your position. Quite a few of you have turned your camera off now, so I'll be working a little bit blind. Stella, I don't know what you want to do, but if you're going to try this type of breath work, you won't be able to stay in your chair. So as I mentioned, you need to be on the floor. You can be on a bed, you can be on a sofa, but just to, if any of you have high blood pressure, asthma, anything to do with the lungs or the heart, any issue, high blood pressure, asthma, anything really in the chest or the heart, then you want to be semi-elevated. So it's quite tricky for me to demonstrate because I'm in a B&B. Let me just show you. Could anyone, could you let me know if there's anyone who has any of those conditions? So anything to do with respiratory or heart blood pressure? Okay, that's great. That's easy then. So you can all lie flat. So just be flat. So flat on a bed, flat on the floor, flat on a sofa. You can have a cushion behind your head or a pillow if you would like. You can have, if you would feel like you're a bit exposed, you can pull something over you, a blanket or duvet, but don't get too comfortable. What you need to do is stay present. So if you're so comfortable that you think you're going to fall asleep, you won't get any benefit from the breath session. So you need to stay fully present and focused on the breath, because you're bringing the breath in to do the healing. So if you've fallen asleep, or you've floated off a bit too much, then you're not going to be present to the breath, and that's what you need to remain. So that's great. It's all nice and easy. So flat, have a pillow if you like behind your head for comfort. You're going to have your hands below your belly button, and you're going to keep them there for the duration of the session. You're going to have your eyes closed, and we're going to do a little introduction that just gets you into the space. Legs, yeah, good point, actually. Vix, you can have your legs flat, or you can have your legs bent at the knees. Whichever you find more comfortable. There's neither which way is, and you can change throughout the, we'll probably have, well, I think we can have 15 minutes actually. So if you feel like you've got your legs flat and then halfway through you change your mind and you want to bring them up to bent at the knees, absolutely fine. And also if you need to move during the session, you'll have your hands here, but if you need to move your shoulders or anything, you don't have to be rigid. Everybody okay with that? Stella, I don't know what you feel that you would want to do, what the office is like that you're in.
I think I'm going to do this at home. I'm going to do the recording. I've done a workshop before with this type of breath, and I know how powerful it is. So,
great.
And I will have to have a glass of champagne later for Annie. So I can risk it.
Absolutely fine. Brilliant. Well, I'm going to assume that you are all ready, because I can't see any of you, and it's fine because we're not doing too long a session now. So I'm just going to invite you now just to get really comfortable and just to be in your space. And just notice the support of the mattress or the sofa or the floor that's beneath you. Just allowing for a moment just for you to take in what we've talked about so far. I'm just inviting you now just to scan your body from the top of your head down to your feet, noticing if there's any tension in any part of your body, and just asking yourself, am I fully in my body right now? And if not, all that means is just bringing your attention and your focus to your body. And just notice. Don't try to change anything, but just notice. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling now? And notice your mind. Do you have many thoughts or few thoughts? And what about your heart center? Any emotions? And again, you're not trying to change anything. You're just noticing. I invite you now to open your mouth, have your hands below your belly button, putting all your focus there. And remember, your mouth is never quite as open as you think it is. So just open it a little bit wider and breathing in through your mouth, feeling your abdomen or your belly expand as if you had an imaginary balloon inside. Feel it inflate. And then letting go on the exhale with no effort. Inviting your breath into your body and finding your own rhythm as you keep your body and your breath connected. So by what I mean by this is there's no pauses in between the inhale and the exhale. And remember, what I said is this technique is also known as circular breathing. So there are no pauses in between your inhale and your exhale. As soon as you finish that exhale, begin the inhale again. And it's in this connected breathing pattern that the body's intelligence begins working, begins healing our bodies, giving it a detox on every level of our being. And during these sessions, I normally say an opening prayer to open what I consider to be a sacred space when we're doing conscious connected breathing like this. So asking the higher selves of all those present, my own higher self, and all the healing frequencies that are available to us today to open up our sacred space. We give you full permission to work with us, and we dedicate the session to our own highest good and the highest good of all sentient beings. Staying really present with your breath. Fully inflating the abdomen with each inhale. Noticing where your attention is, and if your mind has wandered, as it no doubt will, just bringing it gently back to the breath, back to your hands and your lower belly. And where your attention is, your breath will follow. Keeping your mouth wide open, allowing the muscles around your face to soften, and allowing the breath to travel all the way down to the bottom of your abdomen. With each inhale, you're bringing energy and oxygen into your body. All you need to do is keep the breath moving. Staying present with whatever is here for you today. Staying fully present with yourself, fully present with your breath. Noticing if the mind is coming in with any distractions, and just allowing your breath to wash away those thoughts. Bring your focus back down to your belly, back to your inhale. Keeping your breath nice and relaxed. If it feels like a struggle, just slow everything down. Keeping your breath and your body totally comfortable. Remember, your inhale is all about receiving life, life force energy into the body. Always noticing where your attention is, and if your mind has wandered, just bringing it gently back to your hands and back to your breath, staying fully present with your breath. Fully inflating your abdomen with each inhale. Checking in with your mouth, making sure it's wide open. It's never as open as you think it is. Just open it a little bit wider. Keeping your attention fully on your breath. If you feel yourself getting sleepy or a bit lightheaded, just bring your attention back to your breath, back to your hands. Asking the higher selves of all those present, my own higher self, and all the healing frequencies that are available to us today, to now give us whatever guidance, awareness, gifts, or healings we need to receive at this time. We give thanks that this is already so. Keeping your mouth wide open, noticing where your attention is, keeping it fully on the breath. Remember, there are no pauses in between the inhale and the exhale. Making these last few breaths really count now. Keep the breath moving. It's in connecting the breath that the self-healing and the magic happens. Keep the breath moving. Safe for me to breathe, and it's safe for me to be in my body at this time. Keep noticing where your attention is. Where your attention is, your breath will follow. Keeping it on your hands. Closing your mouth now and just letting your breathing return to normal. Just rest for a moment, keeping your eyes closed. Just doing another scan of your body, noticing how it feels now after the experience. Noticing your mind again. How does it feel now? And your heart center, your emotions. When you're ready, opening your eyes and coming back into the room. Very slowly and gently, just sitting up. Take your time. Maybe focus on something further away. And then something closer to you. Just to come fully back to yourself and to the room. And when you're ready, if anyone has any questions or anything they'd like to comment on. And I would say we've only just done a little taster today, but as I've mentioned, this is a self-healing session. So normally what I would say to people is, certainly if you've done a 30 to 40 minute session, your body is still in a process of self-healing and will be in that process for the next 24 hours. So I always ask people to not put any intoxicants into their body, alcohol or coffee. But we've just had a taster today, so I'll leave that up to you. But it is a process of self-healing. I'm just having a look at the chat box. I
just want to actually ask for how people feel after that, because as you know, I did a workshop with Alan a few years back, and I couldn't stop laughing at the end. I giggled, but there was a lady next to me who was bawling, crying her eyes out, and I felt a bit guilty actually that I was laughing and she was crying. But I'd be really interested to hear, or if anyone wants to share on chat, just how, if there were any emotions that came out, or was it all physical? I had tears come out. Yeah, occasionally had tears. I'm lightheaded. Yeah. Tingly. Anyone else want to share anything about that?
Yes, so yawning, Jane, is another one. I didn't mention yawning, but yawning is another release. So never need to worry about anything that's coming out. This is a form of release. So what we're doing is releasing things that are coming up out of the body. So anything that comes up.
Yawning, yeah, sorry, yawning's really good form of release, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Felt quite fearful of not getting enough breath, and yeah, I remember feeling the same way the first time I did this breath. Yeah,
Vix, and again, that's just a fear is quite a big thing, isn't it? So again, it's just the mind just trying to really prevent you from getting into it and telling you that it's something to be afraid of. But again, all you need to do is just keep the focus coming back to the breath, and those thoughts will pass.
Vix asked a question earlier. Can you practice this on your own, or is it best to have a guided session with a trained expert?
And I would say, yes, you can practice it on your own, absolutely. And I have some video explanations on my website, and you can do that. But it's a bit like I spoke about at the beginning, really. It's a bit like maybe when you go to the gym the first time, you have an induction. And then if you find yourself getting a bit distracted and you go to the gym, you're not really doing what you intended to do, then it's good to have a personal trainer just to get you back on track, because just by the nature of it, until you really get into something, then quite often it's very easy to get distracted. So that's really the best analogy that I can give, but absolutely you can do it on your own if you feel comfortable, absolutely. And if you feel you've got the discipline right from the offset, then yes, absolutely.
We can share your information on email afterwards, about if anyone wants to have a private session.
There's a free audio guide. If you sign up for the newsletter, there's a free audio guide that you can download to try, just my voice, very similar today, talking you through that. It's a 15-minute one.
How long for a transformation? How long should people do this for to really get the benefit?
That's a great question. A transformation. I mean, it's a bit like what I said. Everybody is very different. So it depends what, do you remember me talking about the body, and you're really in the back seat and you're along for the ride. So this is self-healing, and it's your body's own intelligence deciding what it wants to work on, Rosie. So I really couldn't say how long and what sort of transformation it is, but it's impossible for me to tell you how that would happen, how long it would happen, what it is, what does it mean for you, a transformation. So I think we would how do you know you're transformed?
Okay, that's a conversation for another day, Jane. I think that's a big
I like
topic.
it. It's a good one.
But how, I mean, coming back to Rosie's question, rather than say, okay, how long for transformation, but what's the optimum amount of time people should do on this kind of breath to
well,
get
I think somebody's
benefit?
after what I do. I do half an hour a day, and I do 5-6 days a week.
Wow, you're committed.
But I would say if you could do 50, if you first start 15 minutes 3 times a week, that would be really great, because it's like anything, starting anything. It's the same as a physical thing, going running or going to the gym. You need to keep practicing it to get into the habit, to get your body into the habit, and it takes a while to get a habit going. So that's the reason why it is quite good to have someone, to go to someone, just because it's the nature of it. For any of you that came along to the forest bathing talk, I can guarantee you, because I know it from myself, if I go forest bathing on my own, there's always that little bit of a tendency to, if I take my phone, or, do I need to check something, or I'm a little bit bored now, because we're very busy human beings. So for us to go from very, very busy in mind or busy to doing nothing in the forest, or to do a breath session, for modern human beings, it's quite tricky. So that's why it is good to have somebody in the first instance. But you can go for a walk in the forest on your own. You've got your own breath. So yes, you can do it on your own, but you know yourself, how likely are you to be distracted or not?
Well, thank you. Because for 2 things. Firstly, thank you so much for giving us your time while you're in Snowdonia and doing this, because I know you're a very busy lady. So, slotting in some time for us to introduce it. It is an amazing form of breath, guys. I have done a big long workshop on this before, and it is very transformational. It released a lot of stuff. And you've encouraged me now, Justine, to pick this up again, because it's a different type of breath to the Wim Hof and the other things that people tend to do, in that this, I think, works deeper on an emotional level as well, and releases that. I may be wrong, but that's,
we have so much control in our lives. Our control is everywhere. We don't want our lives to get out of control, because there's so much going on externally. I like this type of breathwork because it's a form of release, and I think that's the key, really. And I just want to quickly come back to what Vix or someone was asking, what does it do? Do you remember I went through these 3 points? Is the physical, we're bringing oxygen and energy into the body, we're fueling our cells. Our cells rely on oxygen and energy for its energy. So when you're fueling your cells in these breath sessions, you're really improving your cellular health. Greater cellular health is greater bodily health. On an emotional level, it's helping us to get clear. Do you remember I talked about the body as a dusty old filing cabinet full of those old emotional files, old emotional baggages, all those emotions that we haven't processed over the course of our lifetime. We're going in with the breath in the body, and we're releasing those in the form of tears, in the form of laughter, in all sorts of ways, spiritual experiences that you will have. So those are really the key things, that benefits that you'll experience from a session, just to remind you.
Brilliant. And then the second thing is we've got some spaces left on Justine's forest bathing, which is in a couple of weeks in Surrey, where we're going to meet face to face. I'm really excited about seeing people face to face. So if any of you are available, it's on Saturday afternoon. I'll put that again in another email. Then please do come along, because as Justine said, you kind of, I think, subconsciously gave me the leeway there to remind everybody about the forest bathing when you were talking about going on your own forest bathing, but it's very much the case. So if you can come along, it'd be lovely to see you. And I'm going to have to like wrap it up now, but thank you so much for your generosity of spirit as always, and for passing on all these wonderful tools that you have dedicated your years to, that you've learned. And thank you everyone for coming along on a beautiful Saturday evening. So you're very dedicated, all of you, and I take my hat off to you for being here. Nikki, it's okay, we'll bring you along to the next one. We're going to do, well, I'm sure we'll do another one, so which is in Jersey, but have a wonderful weekend everyone. I will follow up with the recording, and you'll find it in a few days on the website like you usually do. You can log in and get that.